The wooden sword. A long time ago, back when the Jews were spreading throughout the world, a Jew, came to live in a city ruled by a great king, the Shah Abbas. The Shah Abbas was a wise and just ruler, but he had an odd habit. Every once in a while, he would wander out of his kingdom, and he would dress as a dervish, as a beggar, and he would walk the streets, seeing how his people lived their lives. One night, he came to a poor hut, and he saw that there was a light on inside. So he walked in. There at the table sat a Jew, eating his dinner, eating some simple food, and singing and praising God. The Shah asked, "Is a guest welcome?" And the man replied, "A guest is a gift from God. Of course you are welcome. I don't have much, but you are happy to share it with me." And after the two men ate, the Shah, curious about this man, asked, "What is it that you do for a living? How do you make your money?" The man replied, "I am a cobbler. I go and walk about the city all day long, and I fix shoes. And that way I make a few pennies, just enough to support myself." Wanting to know more about who this man was, the Shah asked him, "And what would you do tomorrow if the king, the Shah, commanded that cobblering, fixing and mending shoes, is no longer permitted?" "Blessed is God day after day," replied the man. "I will find a way to survive." So the next day, the Shah made a command that said cobblers had to have a permit to fix shoes. And when the man went out into the city to do his work, to find some way to mend shoes, and he learned that he could no longer do this, he went to the well, and there he drew water for a few pennies, just enough to make a living. That evening, when the Shah, disguised, came back to the hut, and he met the friend, he saw him, the Jew, sitting there as usual, singing and praising God. The Shah asked him, "What did you do today? I heard that the Shah put out a decree that you could not cobble." And the man said, "That's true. When I found out that I could not do my work, I went to the well and I drew some water and made just enough to sustain myself." And so the Shah asked him, "And what would you do tomorrow if the king commands that you cannot draw water?" The man replied, "Blessed is God day after day. I will find a way to survive." That next day, the Shah commanded water drawing is forbidden. So the man went out to the forest to chop some wood in return for just a few pennies. That evening, when the Shah returned disguised to the hut, he asked the man, "What did you do today?" And the Jew replied, "I went out to the forest. I cut some wood and earned just enough to support myself." And the Shah asked him, "And what would you do tomorrow if the king commands that wood cutting is forbidden?" "Blessed is God day after day," replied the man. "I will find a way to survive." And so that next day, the Shah indeed declared that wood cutting is forbidden. In fact, he sent out messengers to all the city, saying every woodcutter had to come to the palace to serve as guard duty. The Jew went to the palace. He was given a sword, and he was told where to stand. And there he stood all day long. But because he could not earn money that day, he went to the storekeeper that night and traded in the steel blade of his sword for some food and as a pledge. When he went home after that trade, he made a blade of wood to fashion and attach to his hilt in its place. The Shah arrived as a man was still making his blade, and he asked, "My friend, what are you doing?" The Jew replied, I had to serve guard duty today. I didn't have time to make money, so I traded in the steel blade of my sword for food, and I am making a replacement for it now. The Shah asked him, genuinely concerned, and what if they search and inspect the blades tomorrow? Inspect the swords, what will you do? The man replied, Blessed is God day after day. I will find a way to survive. And so indeed, that next day, the captain of the guard called the man to him. He placed the prisoner in his charge and said, This man is a criminal. He has been commanded and sentenced to death. You must execute him. The Jew, replied, I cannot. I have never killed a man in my life. But the captain replied, This is the Shah's order. You must obey. The Jew said, Okay. He stepped forward, placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, and cried out loud for all who had gathered to see the execution to hear, O God of the universe, you know that I am not a murderer. If this man is indeed guilty, may the blade of my sword remain steel. But if he is innocent, then I pray that you change the blade to wood. And he drew the sword, and behold, it was wood. And all the people gasped in astonishment. And all the people gasped in astonishment. And after that, they let the man go free. And the Shah summoned the man to his palace. He revealed who he was, embraced him. He appointed him one of his senior counselors and cherished their friendship until the end of their lives. Gemar Chatima Tova.